Good afternoon, everyone. We're going to continue with our program for this afternoon, which this part of it is a conversation about the effect of AI in entrepreneurship. I have the good fortune of having Devin Bhushan joining us today for this conversation. I'm sure you can all appreciate how much AI has been disruptive, right? It's disruptive technology. It's making its way into all aspects of our lives and our society. And we want to be having thoughtful conversations about what that means for the future of entrepreneurship, what it means for the future of higher education. And I'm really pleased to have Devin joining us today. I just want to introduce him briefly here. Devin's coming back. He's a University of Illinois alum, previous participant in the Cozad New Venture Challenge. He got his bachelor's in science, in computer science in 2014, and he's now the CEO of Squint, which is an AI-powered manufacturing intelligence platform that helps companies capture frontline knowledge, improve workflows, and reduce downtime at scale. The company is a Series B company, raised its Series B last year, bringing the total capital raised to $60 million. And he just has the right kind of background and experience to be joining us in this conversation today. So please join me in welcoming Devin Bhushan. So as I normally start most of the conversations with the founders that I meet, I think it'd be helpful context for everyone in the room, Devin, if you tell us a little bit more about Squint, what problem in the marketplace you're solving as background for the discussion today.
Yeah, so first off, I'll say I did a Cozad startup here 12 years ago. I think 12 or maybe 13, I don't know exactly, but it's really hard to start a company when you're in college. My idea was terrible. It was so bad. I'm so glad that didn't work out. But after that, I left U of I, and I followed, my passion was sports, or is sports, I would say. And I followed that into working at Yahoo Fantasy Sports. And so my background was kind of like, okay, I've done a degree in computer science. I wanted to work on building fantasy sports platforms, which is probably my most used, web app that I used to use. I worked on fantasy sports for about 3.5 years at Yahoo. Across that time, found a mentor. His name was Tim Tully, and he was the head of engineering at the time, and he, for some reason, took me under his wing. From there, Tim went to go become the CTO at a company called Splunk. They were a public company, sold to Cisco a couple years ago now. But Splunk did data analytics. And when Tim went over to be CTO, he thought, hey, it would be really great if we could bring consumer product thinking to this enterprise space and try to fix the interface that Splunk has with frontline operators. So people either on a factory floor or out in the field, performing work, interacting with data in a big database. They didn't have any way to query against the Splunk database, and so Splunk had sold all these deals into like IoT companies, and they had multi-million-dollar contracts with Siemens and BMW and all these customers that their factory workers actually could not leverage the data that they had pumped into the system because they'd have to take like 5 IT courses in learning how to write queries, right? And they're not going to do that. So my job there was figure out how to close that bridge, and that's really where I learned more about the problem that led to starting Squint, which was basically, as I talked to factory operators and stuff, what I kept hearing was your app, we had built this app that let you point your phone at a machine, and it would show you the data in augmented reality. So you would see like fan speed, like 0 RPM, right? And then you know which fan is the problem on this machine, and then you can do the technician work required. But when I talked to our customers, they were like, your app's really great, but like, it's just telling me there's 0 RPM. How do I fix that, right? And I was like, I don't know, that's your job. And turns out they don't actually have that documented anywhere. And so what they needed was a system that captured kind of the institutional knowledge that had been passed down over generations of being a technician And I saw that, and so that's when I kind of spun off, and I was like, wait, there's a bigger problem here to solve than bringing data to the front line. It's actually capturing the knowledge and the context and building a knowledge base that can be accessible basically by frontline operators. And so started Squint 4.5 years ago now. For the first 6 months, didn't write a line of code, which was like a big learning after writing code every day, because all I did was validate the idea. We built out prototypes, we went to market, we tested pricing, we did all this stuff, and then finally, when we had essentially people saying, where do I sign the check? We were like, okay, well actually, I don't have a product yet, but I'm gonna go build it now. And then we went and built the product, and really now have been in market for like 3 years.
Yeah, I think Rick Landuyt yesterday echoed some of that, right? The idea of getting out there, essentially doing a demo, selling it, and then ultimately building it when you know that there's actual demand. One of the things I'm really interested in, particularly within the context of a conversation about the impact of AI in entrepreneurship, is what was happening at the founding of your company, sort of the technical and sort of business landscape level that kind of made the way you're creating value for your customers now possible.
Yeah, I mean, I think for us, it was being very focused on like understanding. So I never worked in a factory, right? But all of our customers, their business is manufacturing. And so it was understanding like, how does your business work? What are your pain points? And there was like this really, if anyone follows Alfred Lin on Twitter, he actually posted a great article yesterday about being a heat-seeking missile for pain. But like figure out what is the biggest pain point for a given use case, in this case manufacturing. The biggest pain point was we don't know what to do and how to do it just in time, right? And so then we innovated in that circle. Yeah. And so what we did was we found a way to capture that context from the people that knew. So with Squint, you can record a video of anyone doing anything. So if there's someone out there like setting up the buffet, we could record a video of them setting up the buffet. And Squint's AI would watch that video and 3 seconds later spit out a step-by-step guide on how to set up a buffet exactly like that person did. So for manufacturing, what that meant was we could start instantly documenting work. And in countries like Japan, where the aging workforce is actually especially bad, this is like a massive issue because they're about to lose all these operators and they've never written down how it works. And so that was kind of chasing the problem was the main thread.
That's awesome. So with a better understanding of the problem, you developed a relevant solution. I'm curious, in the process of doing that, did you develop some kind of proprietary technology to solve the problem that contributes to the defensibility of your position in the market? And if not, how do you accomplish that?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for us, like it wasn't, the point was not to run after creating IP. Mm-hmm. The point was to solve this problem and build the best package for the customer, such that it actually creates value for their business. But yes, in the process of that, I think you run into problems that no one has solved, and that's why this thing doesn't exist, right? And so for us, it was computer vision and being able to watch someone do something and then break that down into frames, break that down into like a semantic understanding of what's happening, understand a format for like, the FDA certified way to operate on machinery for food, and then fit the video you just watched into that format and build that out automatically, right? This took like on average, I think it's called a work instruction in a factory, but one work instruction takes about 12 hours of like human time to produce, and we do it in about 6 seconds. Right, and so it like massively accelerated that process. And then we also built the piece which was like now using the iPad camera to watch people work and then verify against the work instruction. So now you can actually have someone out there who's never done this thing before, they follow this amazing guide, and then it catches their mistakes just in like real time in seconds, right? And so those were key pieces that didn't exist before that we had to build.
Yeah, so if we were to kind of build on that a little bit, just for the benefit of the founders who are in the room, one of the benefits of AI is it democratizes innovation, right? People are able to leverage it, be creative, build things. At the same time, it lowers the barrier to competition. But you just talked about a way you were able to, put together a strategy leveraging technology to defend your position in the market. How would you advise founders in the room to think about that, particularly given that that's going to be an important component in potential investors evaluating their businesses as opportunities?
So at our all hands, I say this actually every Monday, which is there's no such thing as a moat. I just think like your moat only exists like today.
Right.
And then once it's kind of like records in sports, right? Like once a record has been set, it's going to be broken. Mm-hmm. Like until someone ran a 4-minute mile, people thought it was impossible. And then once someone did it, it just kept happening. And so I think the same exists in technology. Once you show that something is possible, people will keep doing it. So every day you have to show up and you have to like actually out innovate yourself. Otherwise someone else will. And so one of our the way that we think about this is one of our company values is it's kind of silly. It's called Dunk the Three, which is I'm a big sports fan, like I said. So everything is sports related. But dunking a three is something that's never happened in an NBA game. Only Michael Jordan did it in Space Jam, right? And
That's right.
So our thing is we're gonna dunk the three. We're gonna do the impossible.
Love it.
But you have to do that every day. Otherwise, someone else will do it.
Yeah, love it. So as you look a little bit into the horizon, looking into the future here, you're embedded in your company, creating value for your customers each day. As you think about their needs, or maybe even as you look at the broader landscape, what are some technological capabilities maybe that we might be missing from your perspective to unlock the next level of value creation that AI could potentially bring?
Yeah, I think one of the things that's happening right now, and I think we see it in a lot of these articles around how companies are becoming more productive with AI, one of the things is basically with platforms like Claude Code and Claude Cowork, what we've created is an ability for every person, technical or not technical, to actually create a N of one app, right? Mm-hmm. An app for the thing they're about to do just this moment. It's disposable, and it's very easy to build. And so what that does is now we've given this superpower of creation to actually everyone. It used to be a thing that you had to be an engineer and you had to go spend weeks to go build your app, and that made it not worthwhile to build most apps, mm-hmm. right? Because if it was a disposable use case, you would never build an app for that. Now you can build an app for anything. And so I actually think what's changing and where the gap is, this is something that we're exploring even tooling internally, and we don't know how to solve it, but how do you bring a product builder mindset now to non-technical people in your organization, right? So for instance, our finance team and our office manager, folks who wouldn't write code actually are using Claude Cowork and are building things that automate their workflows. But there's still a lot of product thinking that's missing. So how do you systematize that for a non-technical audience? I think there's a lot of open space there that companies are trying to leverage AI and they just don't know how to package it. So there's probably something there.
Yeah, interesting. So zooming out a little bit and kind of looking at sort of an opportunity level, right? Where do you see opportunities, for obviously, we've seen some incredible student entrepreneurs solving amazing problems out there over the course of Cozad. I'm curious, though, as a leader in this space, where do you see some untapped opportunities out there that could be really exciting problems for the next wave of entrepreneurs to be tackling?
Yeah, so I think, that the one I mentioned is probably one I see right now. I think the other ones I would mention would be there's a lot going on in medicine that is pretty exciting. I think a lot of the, or in healthcare broadly, I think specifically on the research side, applying the new models is just, it's 10xing what was possible every other day, it feels like. And so I'm excited to see, I don't have a background in that, so I can't, I don't know very much about it, but I'm following, and it's really cool to see the advances that are being made. I think the other spaces, aside from like non-technical productivity in healthcare, probably robotics is super exciting, but I still think we're like a ways out from like general purpose. So I'm excited to kind of see the advances that we make there. It's just kind of a cool sci-fi world that we're living in right now.
Yeah, that's wonderful. So something that I think would be really insightful, not just for our founders in the room, but for the rest of us, is to just have you tell us a little bit about how you're personally leveraging AI to improve your own productivity as CEO of Squint.
Okay, so I think that the best places to use AI are the things that you like to do the least, right? That's just not where I want to spend my time. So for me, that is actually posting on social media. And we have a marketing team, and there's like this they create 2 or 3 posts for me a week that I can copy paste, which is great. I love that. And then, actually, don't tell anyone. Is this recorded? I don't know. Anyway, it's fine. It's marketing. But like the other 4 days, I'm supposed to generate an idea and post it. And I'm like, where am I going to do that? I don't want to write this down. I don't want to tweet it. I'm going to get canceled. I don't know what to say. And so what I do now is I have a Slack channel where anytime I have a hot take, I send it, and I'm the only one in the Slack channel. But Claude reads the channel. Wow. And I have Claude hooked up basically to a series of topics that our marketing team is like, you should talk about these things. But my hot takes aren't filtered because I just think them. So the hot takes are in the channel. Claude matches them to topics. It then takes them and runs them against current events. And then it runs them through a filter to make them like PC and like, things that match my voice and brand. And then it drafts tweets for me. And then it scores them and it sends them to our marketing team. And then they just tell me what to post and I copy paste.
Wow.
So that's awesome. Way easier.
That's awesome. So, I think as we start to kind of wrap up our conversation here, one of the things that I think we're all thinking about is the impact of AI on the labor market, right? We are a higher education institution. We work with students. On the one hand, we've seen a fantastic demonstration of how students are leveraging AI to build businesses, right? At the same time, we know AI is having a significant impact on career opportunities in the labor market. So for the students in the room, being a leader in this really fast-moving space, someone who's recruiting and hiring talent, how would you advise students to prepare to enter the labor market given the dislocations that are happening currently?
I think, I'll say for non-information workers, just because that's actually the space we're in, right? Like we are bringing AI to manufacturing, which people in that space are asking the same question. It's like, well, are you like automating people's jobs away? And I actually think the answer to that, our stance is like very much no. I've never met a manufacturing company that is running at like perfect efficiency, and if they could just do it faster, they'd stop working the rest of the time. No, they all have backlogs, right? So I think that paradigm applies to most work, is like if you created more time to do things, like if you just did things faster, you would do more. So I don't think we're automating jobs away. I think we're increasing productivity. Yeah, and but that's like non-information. I think like actual advice to students, I would say, is like if you're going to school at U of I and you're going to go into the workforce, just make sure that you're literate with the AI tooling. It's such an important piece of every interview process we have now, which is like, if you're going to be a product manager, can you build a prototype for every idea you have alongside a PRD? If you're going to be, even when we interview like an assistant role, like executive assistant, how much of that can you automate with AI, right? Because everyone could be more productive and faster, and it just makes us look better, right? So I would orient towards that. I don't know if school is teaching that these days, but
awesome.
We should.
So my final question, we talked about you having participated in Cozad. I think you said 2012 maybe?
I think it was 2013.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, and you said, your words, right? It wasn't the best idea. So for the students who participated in Cozad and, are perhaps less than enthused about the idea that they didn't make it to the finals, What would you want to tell them, given what your journey has been since your participation in Cozad?
It's all about the reps, right? Like, just get more at bats, keep going, keep doing it, and have really, like, just maximize shots on goal, I would say. That's been my, like, observation on most things in my career. I think that for me, like, my observation looking back at me in 2013 doing Cozad was like, there were a lot of great things I learned from it, and there were still missing pieces that I needed as a founder that came later, right? And some of that I picked up by working at a big company like Yahoo or Splunk, and some of that I picked up by other failed startup ideas I had along the way. Not failed, but like, I didn't end up pursuing full time.
Right.
And then Squint happened, and it just all kind of fell into place. But I didn't know that before. So, just keep going, keep maximize chances.
Yeah, awesome. Well, to wrap up here, let me just say, Devin has graciously offered to meet with students today, this afternoon at 4:30 at Brew Lab. So if you're here wanting to learn more about his journey, he's going to make some time to connect with the students. And with that, Devin, we're super proud to have you back on campus. Just want to congratulate you on all of your success so far. And I'm going to ask the rest of our audience to please join me in thanking Devin Bhushan.
Thank you.